Member Peanut,
Here.
Member Miller,
Here.
Member Zagorczyk.
Here.
Please let the record show that Vice Chair Tigert is excused.
Okay, thank you. And please follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Does anybody have any revisions to the agenda? And if not, would somebody motion to please adopt the agenda?
I'll motion to adopt the agenda.
And a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The agenda has been adopted. Approval of minutes. Did some of us, we're not here. I'm the only one that was here for the first one, and I didn't see any problems. Did anybody have any adjustments to the June 12th minutes?
Nope.
Okay, will somebody make a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
I'll approve the minutes as presented.
And a second?
I will second.
Thank you. All in favor of
Aye.
adopting the minutes? Thank you. Okay, we will open the public comment for items not on the agenda. Is anybody here to speak about something that is not on the agenda tonight? I'll say it again, just in case. Is anybody here to talk about something that's not on the agenda? Okay. Then I will close the public comment period for that, and we will move on to public hearings. 18-1867.
This public hearing item is going to be continued to the regular ZDRB meeting of October 9th. The applicant is currently revising their plan sets, which will address ADA issues as well as setback and property line issues.
Okay, great,
So we'll
thank
hear
you.
from them next month.
We can cross that off, and we will move on to 18-1863.
Good evening. Tonight you have before you a request for exterior modifications at Maisonnerie. And we switch over the, but it's not shown up there. It's the button over there, isn't it? Sorry.
While we
Technical
get
difficulties.
the
Nathan isn't here.
right things up there.
Going now?
No?
Huh. Uh-oh.
Working earlier. This one?
Hold on. Just give me 1 second. Let's try this one.
No.
All right.
Let me just. Where's the mouse? There we go.
Okay.
Where'd it go?
I don't know why it's doing that, but it's doing that.
Okay.
There we go. All right.
Great. So tonight we're discussing 2 exterior modifications for Maisonnerie, and that's the building here shown on the left. And Maisonnerie forms part of the RH campus with the property to the right and the 3 buildings that are under construction. And the RH project was originally approved in 2015, and that approval included some design elements that influence the application before you tonight. One element are the 7-foot-plus fences and gates at the south courtyard of the RH property as you head toward the Burgundy Commons driveway and the adjacent Maisonnerie. There's also a second set of walls and fences at the rear of the property toward the parking lot. And the purpose of those gates is to remain open during business hours and to allow guests to enjoy and experience the open space, but to be able to secure the property at night because there's furniture and furnishings and other items in the outdoor spaces. The other item at the RH property is a fireplace, and you can see it on the far right of this illustration poking up above the glass roof line. And that fireplace is at 18 feet 10 inches, and it too was approved during that 2015 approval. both of the improvements that are before you tonight are to mimic and repeat those design elements, because the goal is to create a campus with that design cohesion, with the balance, and now I'll go into a little bit more on each of those changes. So let me see what I have here first, sorry. So I'm going to start with the fireplace. So at Maisonry, if you look to the far left, you see the matching fireplace off to that side. It's at 18 feet 10 inches, and it would match identically the fireplace that's on the RH parcel. It wasn't shown on design drawings for Maisonry, and while it was probably planned from the very start, Maisonry didn't go through the same level of design review that RH did, and so it's just something that was missed. We found it on the construction drawings, and we're bringing it before you tonight. That 18-foot, 10-inch fireplace exceeds the 10-foot height limit for fireplaces, and fireplaces are designed as accessory structures, and outdoor fireplaces are specifically limited to 10 feet. The code doesn't differentiate between residential and commercial fireplaces, and I think the intent truly is more with the residential fireplace, because we're small homes on small lots, so the massing of an outdoor fireplace very close to a property line can be imposing on a residential neighbor. The way that it's addressed for a commercial property, such as this one that's developed as a master development plan, there are certain exceptions that are permissible for these properties, and height of buildings and structures are one of them. So there is the opportunity to approve a higher fireplace in this case. The reasons are the applicant's reasons are for this design symmetry and cohesion, and that would be supportive of the request for an exception. Additionally, we have the letter of support from the adjoining neighbor at Burgundy Commons and two other residents or two other owners at Burgundy Commons, and this level of support goes a long way in alleviating any concerns staff has with the massing of that fireplace along the south property line. So that is the first of the two elements before you tonight. This, let me go here first. This shows the access between the two properties, and the really the pedestrian circulation between RH on the right and Maisonry on the left goes through the Burgundy Commons driveway. And so that was, RH is on the left, Maisonry is on the right, sorry. And you can see there's a direct line of sight. There's truly a reason that these two fireplaces should match one another. The other item that we're looking at is in red toward the upper right-hand corner, and it is a new 7-foot plus fence that would extend from the southeast building corner of Maisonry to the property line. And again, its purpose would be to provide direct access to the property during the hours that the business is open, but it allows them to close it off for security after hours. The gate is an open metal construction so that you can see through it. This is looking into Maisonry at the fireplace, and this is a gate at the Maisonry north side of the property toward the that driveway, and it mimics the one on the other side at RH. So we see what it'll look like, and it allows views into the space because it's not a solid construction. You can see all the plants and things behind it. And let me go find some other photos. And then here you can see what it looks like, I believe in the closed position to the left of Maisonry. And so this is a new request in this area because what the applicant has done is they've created a direct access point to the south and rear gardens at Maisonry where one didn't previously exist. Before this opening was made, you could only enter the garden by going through the Maisonry building. So that direct connection is positive in terms of creating accessibility to the open space and is consistent with the goals of the design and the zoning and design ordinance. The applicants have also indicated that the goal is to keep the gate open during business hours so that access is unfettered and it's only closed for security. Where it differs is it's a lot taller than a fence or a wall that would be permitted within a front setback or a front property line. The code limits the height of a wall or fence to 3 feet in that area. And the idea is that views and accessibility are maintained into areas. So that is how and so this fence deserves some consideration and discussion tonight as to how it can support the town's pedestrian-oriented aesthetic and the aesthetic and access at other properties in town, in light of this applicant's very strong goal of creating a property that is consistent design-wise throughout. But again, as with the fireplace, there is an opportunity as part of the master development plan process to allow a taller wall and gate and fence where it supports the property and the overall goals of the town in creating open space. And I bring you back to the point where this is a new connection. So you may want to spend some time discussing this. Anyway, that is the item presented to you for your discussion, and I'm happy to answer questions. The applicant is also here as well tonight.
Okay. So the first step for everybody here is fairly new, is questions of staff about what they have presented to us. I'll just go first, just to sort of set the tone. Are we considering the side gate on Masonry? You showed a picture of it, but are we considering that as part of tonight?
No, the side gate is not before you, and there are 2 reasons for that. One is that Masonry previously had a fence and a gate at that location, so it's essentially just a replacement gate. It's also on a side property line, and it is at a height that is permitted by the code. So essentially, it's a replacement gate that, even though it was overlooked as part of the design, it's consistent and it's not street facing, so it's approved.
Okay. Looking back at the original drawings for RH and Masonry that were presented to us back in 2015, I see some kind of dramatic changes to the front of RH and to the side of Masonry. We never saw those changes, right?
I don't know what you're speaking of.
Well, like at the front of RH on the original drawings, there was not a wall around it. There was plants, but it was open, and you could walk. When you walked to the front doors of the building, you could walk into the courtyards there in front. And now on these drawings, those front courtyards look to be only accessible from within the building.
No, they maintain that access point from the street to the RH building. Oh, we're talking Masonry.
No, we're talking RH.
So right, so RH, you still have that direct connection you see in this illustration to that front door, to those front patios.
But the way they show it now, you can only get to those front patios from within the building, no longer from the sidewalk.
I don't believe that's correct, no. That has a sidewalk connection, correct?
The front patios do not, but they were part of the glass roof amendment at town council hearing from 2 years ago.
July, I think it was.
From when that one.
They still have the glass covering, but now they're cut off. They're not accessible from the walkway into the building anymore, like they used to be on the first set of plans. But originally, the original plans that we saw in 2000s, it was all open. That was the last we saw. So we didn't approve these changes?
I'm sorry, so we're talking about RH?
Yes.
And we're
I'm
talking
just
about
trying to
the
find out
access
all
from
all the changes
the
that I
sidewalk
see.
to the main building?
From the sidewalk
Shown is open here.
to the patios.
That's open, they're saying direct access to the front patios from the sidewalk.
You can no longer walk.
Oh.
It's
Yeah,
closed
right.
off. You have to
Right, right,
enter
right,
those
right,
patios from
right.
within the building. So did that
Yes,
never
was
came to ZDRB?
understood. I can't recall the whole history of it, but revisions for this glass roof line and the change in the gable roof, or the dormer that was out front.
Yeah.
Were all taken to the town council. And
Directly for design changes? Okay. Same with the original drawings were some four soft fabric shade structures to the south, over the south garden area of Masonry. And now we have 2, 4, 6, 8 metal structures?
They're covered in the sailcloth.
They're the same,
Yeah.
they're the same metal, or they're the same material and configuration. Instead of 4 larger ones, there are 8 smaller ones.
And did that go through town council for approval? Okay.
Did.
Okay, just wondering why it looks so different from the way we saw it. Okay, so is there no public space then?
The public space is in the, it's still considered the front courtyards because those are accessible to the public, as well as the interior courtyard because you can walk through the building to get to it. Going through a building doesn't disqualify it as open space. So all the areas you see in and around the building are still project open space.
So anybody can go in there and sit down and
Yes.
use the way public space is supposed to be used? Okay. Okay, does anybody else have questions for staff?
I'm seeing a slight conflict between the axonometric drawing and the elevation drawing. And it pertains to the depth of the fireplace. And Sandra, correct me if I'm wrong. I think that you said that they wanted the fireplaces to match.
Yes.
And they're not the same height, and one is narrower from the front elevation than the other one. The one behind masonry seems to be, on the plan, it's the same depth, and on the elevation, it's drawn in thicker. I'm just wondering which one is what they're intending. And it's shorter.
The intent is to mimic the design of the other one.
Okay,
So when the applicant gets up to give their presentation, we can ask that as
Yeah.
well.
Okay, good.
yeah.
Good.
Did you have any questions,
I do.
Lynn?
Yes, thank you. So the reason for the height of the fence and the gate is security purposes, is that correct?
Well, it's twofold. The gate and the fence provide security after hours, but the height of the fence is driven by their desire to match the other fences on the property.
So there will be a chance after the applicant gets up to speak that we can ask questions of the applicant.
Okay, thank you.
I do have one question. On the masonry side, the proposed gate that's going to be on Washington Street, I can't remember what's there now. I know that's already blocked off from the public. Do we know how tall that
There
fence
was
is?
no gate, I believe. It was
There's a fence,
hedge.
right? It's a hedge?
It was a hedge just a
low
landscaped hedge. There was no access. You had to go through the building.
Yeah. No, I know that there wasn't access because I've walked
It
by
was
it.
low, so it was under 3 feet or under.
So the area that on the Washington Street side on the left of this diagram, that gate is basically replacing a low hedge that's currently 3 feet high. Is that what we're hearing? Okay. And Stephen, you were basically saying, were you saying that the elevation of the fireplace on the left isn't matching the one on the right? Is that what you were
Yeah.
on this
it's-
diagram?
It's not matching in height or
Width.
in the width from this vantage.
Okay.
So we can ask the applicant
Sure.
about that when we get to
Yeah.
that.
I was just clarifying it, but
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you have any further questions?
No, no further
Staff?
questions.
We can always ask them questions later as we go on too.
Great.
Okay, then I would like to invite the applicant up to discuss their request for tonight.
I have great answers for all of those questions,
Good.
so I'm perfectly happy to. Good evening. My name is Jordan Brown. I'm a director of architecture for RH. I also have a physical sample of the mesh that I wanted to pass around for everyone's use. I would note it's a little sharp on the edges, so just be, because it was roughly cut. So just
So the openings are that small?
the meshes
That's exactly the mesh.
within that,
Okay.
yeah. I would also apologize in advance. I'm a bit under the weather, so
Sure.
yeah. Apologies for sniffling and coughing and all of the other unfortunate side effects of being sick.
I can do it for you. Or
Oh, even better, so I don't have to
Okay.
touch anything. So The agenda for this evening is fairly straightforward. It's exactly as Sandra had reviewed with us. The design objectives of these 2 points are to further continue the symmetry and the balance and the design integrity that we've already established and had previously approved from prior reviews. We have a brief project overview just to ground us and locate us on site. And then we'll go into each individual category or design object under review tonight, the outdoor fireplace and the fencing. So the campus plan, as you noted, is masonry. The 2 items under review tonight are masonry. As we've gone through, circled in red are the fence/gate in question and the chimney in question. That's right. Again, just to reiterate, the whole objective between creating this balance, between adding the second fireplace and adding the 4th gate, is to create this symmetry and continuity to allow visitors a much clearer method of circulation through site and clear direction and orientation within the complex as well. So, yeah, sorry, just to go back one quick one. So just to orient ourselves, obviously the area in question is on the right side of there as we've gone through. The 3 previously approved gates are 2 of which are at the new complex to the north. And then there is the northern gate off Burgundy Way to the north of Masonry, all of which are in the same style, material, and configuration as the one under question tonight. You can go to the next one. I apologize for the rendering glitch difference. The design intent is to match the symmetry. The height difference you're noticing, though, I think is in part because of the elevation change on site. So there's a 1+ of difference, of grade difference, between the northern side of the site and the new complex and the southern side of the site. So the idea is to match the same scale and proportion of both fireplaces to date and material of both fireplaces to date. The design intent behind the 7-foot high fence and gate, as you'll note, is not just for security purposes, but it also picks up the continuity and the architecture of the historic masonry building. There's a 7-foot high datum line that's set across masonry. It indicates the front entry door as well as all of the fenestration on the first floor level. So there's a reason behind it, not just for discouraging. We thought 3 foot is really not going to discourage any intoxicated visitors from coming over the parcel in the evening, or whoever, or vandals. But a 7-foot high fence relates to the existing historic architecture. It ties in with the divisions of the windows and the doors already in place and the materiality of the doors in place. It's the same color, it's the steel system as we have not only in the gates throughout, but as well as in the building itself at Masonry and the new complex. So just to get into some more details about it. The outdoor fireplace, the rendering you'll see on the left is the existing approved fireplace at the new complex. It also has the sliding gates and fence already approved, so you can see it's a similar style. It embraces, again, just to reiterate, the fireplace embraces the symmetry of the site. You look to the right, it's the same. The idea is to create the same exact balance on site with between the gates and the fireplace as the focal point at the end of the pathway. It anchors the connecting pathways, and it's placed, also I would note, it's placed in the rear yard behind the historic stone structure, 52.5 feet back from the street, 8.5 feet off the property line, and that's also from the south property line, and that's also behind an 8-foot high plaster wall. So there are definitely some buffers to the height of the fireplace in question. The mature landscaping, the mature landscaping and decorative shade structures will also further conceal the accessory structure, which is shown on the next page. So here we're very glad that the first 2 trees on the street have gone in. So you get a sense of it's pretty hard to tell. We have this steel structure, and Sandra was allowing us to work with us on given our timeline. You know, we're opening imminently, so in the interest of keeping up with construction on site and meeting all of our deadlines, she allowed us to pause on where we were instead of remove the structure that's there to date. But luckily, the good side about that is that it really helps you understand the main massing of the proposed chimney. So, is there a pointer on that at all? It's really hard to see in this, but the photo on the left is standing directly across the entrance, the new proposed pedestrian entrance. Thanks. The circle in red that you see on the left is where the fireplace is. It's obscured by the trees entirely from a straight-on view. So of course, you know, we're not just going to show you this straight-on view that's perfectly obscures the fireplace. Of course, when you turn to the north and south, you do get a glimpse of where the fireplace is. But frankly, once the trellises are in currently, the shade structure that's already been approved is currently being installed as well. And we feel that once that goes in, you're going to see negligibly more of the fireplace once it's finished with the finished chimney hood. I think that's it for that one. Yeah. So the proposed open fencing and sliding gate creates a point of entry from the street that was previously visually and physically blocked off by the extensive landscaping. So this is a photo of where we were before, and I agree, it was only 3 feet high, which technically it does meet code requirements, but it was so deep and so intricate, and also typically had a very large piece of art in front of it that would completely obscure the backyard, not completely, but largely obscure the backyard from pedestrians walking along Washington Street. So we feel that our new proposed gate not only establishes a welcoming point of entry for pedestrians along Washington Street that was not previously part of the original masonry complex, but it also it connotes a point of entry, and it also allows for us, frankly, to secure the complex at night. We would note that, you know, one of our main challenges since purchasing this incredible building is that the front door is rather small, and we have, you know, always regularly receive feedback from visitors like, oh, I almost missed it. You know, I wasn't sure if it was open to the public. I wasn't sure which entrance to go into, and so based on the feedback that we had received at the time, we as a company thought it'd be a great opportunity to open up a garden entrance, make people feel like there was a very clear delineation using the same methods and materials that we have established throughout the complex. Again, just to reiterate, the materials are transparent. It's a metal mesh of approximately 86% transparency. It matches the 4 other gates found across both properties in material and configuration. It is set back 9'6" from the property line, so it's not like it's right on the sidewalk, but rather buffered behind the olive trees that flank the entrance and the hedges right along the sidewalk. So there is some softer transitional space within that area. It also frames this bluestone pathway, the method of circulation that we have used throughout the complex. And then again, just to reiterate, the gate will remain open during business hours. We always leave our gates open to encourage visitors to come through, just enjoy the gardens, enjoy the property. That's the whole purpose of the campus and the way that we've set up the design to date. The mesh allows for continued visibility, even frankly after we close, in the sense that, yes, it is high, but it has 86% transparency to it. So it's secure, but it still has visibility, so you could see through the courtyard or through the fence and into the backyard like you would anywhere, almost without anything there at all. The final point is really from a company perspective is there's a critical loss prevention and liability perspective about trying to secure the complex after hours. We have pretty expensive merchandise that we're planning on putting back there that we want to make sure we secure in a tasteful and brand appropriate manner, not just tying it down, tethering it to the ground and trying to make shift, or worse, trying to load things into the building after hours, but really trying to maintain the grounds to the integrity that we are aspiring to throughout the complex. The new complex to the north is fully secured for after-hours use. Masonry was arguably secured previously between the gate and fence facing Burgundy Way and this extensive buffer, landscape buffer, and art installation. You go to the next page. Thanks. So this is a rendering showing the transparency and the pedestrian-friendly access that we're creating here between the transparent mesh fences and sliding gates that perfectly align, so you don't have any further obscure visual impediment once the gates are even in their open position to the sides. And everything like we've said is to align for clear circulation and transparency of vision. Go to the last slide. And then these are just some examples of mocked up the fences that are the gates that are going in currently, how transparent they are. You can see in the sample. You can see this is the middle photo is from Burgundy Way facing north to the new complex. It just further highlights how everything is intentionally aligned within the building so that it looks like it's either always been there or it's entirely integrated within the architecture. The material, the visual alignment, the vertical alignments, the divisions, they all respond to the steel and glass window systems throughout or the door systems throughout. I think that's it. Questions? Go to the next one. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So the next step is if she hasn't answered anybody's questions, do you have any questions, Lynn? I don't. Okay. Stephen?
I do. I'm still questioning. I don't think you answered what the difference in the depth of those two fireplaces.
The intention is to meet them. So the elevation, that's why I apologized.
Okay.
The rendered elevation is off.
Okay.
Yeah, the intention is to match the fireplace at the new complex exactly.
Okay. The other question that I have is, you're not showing the pedestrian walkway on these drawings, the existing public right-of-way, but you're showing
In plan or in?
in plan.
You go to the plan. Go to the plan. Just go through. It should be on the site plan.
Yeah, that is.
Keep going one more. There we go.
There.
At the top.
So
Yeah.
the pedestrian walkway is, as this drawing is oriented, it's at the very top and
Yep.
outside of that row of trees.
Correct.
And then there's a paving area that's inside
Secondary.
those trees.
Correct. That's just free flowing outdoor vestibule, if you will.
What's the material on that? Is it concrete or?
There is an existing concrete pad that we've patched and we're working on for the right directly in front of masonry, and then everywhere else is bluestone with a DG path like we've planned for next door. So if you look at the building one, going to the sidewalk, it's stabilized decomposed granite with large 2x6 large bluestone slabs that just, if you're really dense, you'll very well be able to understand that this is a pathway that you're supposed to walk on.
Any other questions? Stephen?
I guess
on it.
it just one of the things that that I'm curious about, it feels like there's a lot of like removal of organic material and then replacing it with pavement, and that there's like a double layer of walkway instead of landscaping. And I wonder, in the photograph that you showed of the historic view of the masonry building.
Is there a clicker or anything I can highlight? Because I do understand your concern. I would actually argue that we're maintaining almost exactly the landscaping that we had previously, with the exception of the interstitial space that only we're trying to further encourage people to cross north-south once they've entered onto the property.
Yeah.
So
Clickers don't hit the screen. We can use
okay.
the cursor.
Okay, yeah, can I use the cursor? go to that page, I promise I'll.
See, it's not wireless,
Oh,
but,
Yeah.
but sure.
No, just if you go to the site plan.
Thanks. Hold on. Here we go, site plan.
Okay, so.
Do you want, here, direct me.
Right there, right up to the north, or right there, sorry, yeah. So that pathway in the area immediately to the right, right there and left, that was the only previously landscaped area that we do not, that we are saying, let's make it all continuous so that there's a full welcome front porch, if you will, of space. There is still some low hedging in front of the gate fence proposed. And, green wall structure along the the south side.
Side
Yeah.
along Burgundy Common.
Yes. So you're effectively removing probably 8 by 8 square feet or something about that on either side. If you're taking the path out of the, obviously, that's
Yeah.
the point of, is putting a pathway in. It's really there is also still, I should say, there's a landscaped area directly to the south. It should be green on this plan and is not. Yep, right there. Yeah, that's all green as well.
Yeah. So I guess the question that I have, because this, it makes me think that if the new gate and the fence is coming right off the corner of the masonry building and traveling behind a hardscaped secondary sidewalk, then the transition between that sidewalk and the gate is just a hard edge against a hard edge. There's nothing planted between the gate or the fence and the
sidewalk.
secondary sidewalk.
There's a row of boxwoods in front of the side.
In front of that.
Yes.
But where the fence comes down to that paved area,
Yes, there's
it's
green.
hard to hard.
No, where the fence comes down, if you see in the rendering, actually, that might be the most clear. Keep going. There, you can see the green hedging along the, yeah, so it is a soft transition. So you have
But it's
green
not on plan
walls.
view.
2 layers.
Yeah, multiple layers of green. We're just trying to facilitate circulation in both axes.
But then
and deal with the
in
grade
that drawing
change.
that Kim just showed me, there's a fence, a low wall that goes between
Yeah,
masonry
I
and.
know.
Oh, you mean this one, right here?
Is that a low wall right there?
On the rendering for the whole, on
The
this drawing?
axonometric one.
There's a wall behind that first planter and the 2 olive trees
No,
that you see.
there's
There's a little knee wall.
There's,
Yeah.
looks like on this view, there's a little wall right there going across.
From the
That's-
front corner.
That's not accurate. That's long gone.
Okay,
Sorry.
okay, so that's all
That's
open.
another out-of-date rendering. I apologize. Yeah, that's gone. Yeah, there's no way, there is a
Walk all the
grade
way.
change, so there's a step down at that point, but
Oh.
you are able to traverse the site north-south at that point. It's either DG or you step onto the concrete pad.
Okay. Any more questions? For
No.
her? We can bring her back if you do later.
Okay.
Michael?
Yeah, some questions. So on the masonry property, on the inside passage, it says there's an existing gate. Now, is that existing as per the approved plans, or is that something that was historically there?
I'm sorry, on the
On the
Burgundy,
masonry.
yeah, masonry, the north side of masonry facing Burgundy Way. That was the gate that Sandra had referenced that had previously been there. Actually, a very similar material and configuration to the one we're just putting back. The one we're putting back just allows we recentered it so that it aligns on the axis and is just symmetrical with all the other gates that we have on campus.
Yeah, I was referring to so the gate that you're showing on the right there, that is
No.
basically opens up to the proposed fireplace. That, are you saying that gate has already historically been there?
There was a gate there previously.
Yeah,
This one is a new
gate
gate
that's-
to replace the existing gate.
got it. And what gate was there before?
It was a metal and mesh gate of similar configuration, but frankly, off-center and not on our axis,
Sure.
so we had to make it perfectly
No, that's fine. I was just
symmetrical.
curious.
It did have, that's a great point, it had a tighter mesh, so the
Okay.
opacity, it was like a half-inch by half-inch mesh, and it folded differently. It was much harder to operate.
Yeah, I was just curious that it's sort of the one example where on the entire property there was a gate that predated it. And then the walls that surround the property, particularly in the back, I'm assuming, how high are those?
8 feet.
Those are 8 feet. So you're building basically, you refer to as a compound?
Yeah,
Or-
I would also note that the 8-foot high plaster wall was also at the encouragement of zoning design review
Yeah.
and town council and staff to help buffer our the noise from our neighbors.
It was actually a condition of
Yeah,
approval.
good point.
To
Even
create more security
To
there.
mitigate any noise and light impacts to those residential properties. It was a wooden board fence before that didn't offer any type of barrier, and it was falling down.
There's nothing
before
really
they
back
replaced it.
there, right? It's just like more
Planting
parking and
There's buildings.
building.
or building, yeah, it's their
homes.
condos.
There's Burgundy
Yeah,
Commons. is
there
behind
are condos.
it. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay, sure. They wrap around. And the last question, or second last question, is on the property itself. You mentioned just for security purposes. I was just curious what was going to be on there. Is it art and things?
Yeah, there are some pieces of art that we're planning on bringing in, some special objects. Our furniture, the amount of furniture we're putting back there within the display is
Yeah, that's
not,
fine.
we'd rather not replace it if we have to, from kids being kids or, decorative, yeah.
Cane lanterns, we've got like
Sure.
custom stacked stone fountains going back to that are
18th century French fountains and
Yeah.
all sorts of decorative votives and objects of curiosity that
Yeah.
are not easy to replace.
Yeah, our backyard space, my name's Steve Sebastian, I'm the Senior Vice President of Gallery Development. And Gary always talks about blending home hospitality, now it's retail, residential, and so forth. So all of our outdoor settings, like indoor settings, are not like a lot of other furniture showrooms. And going into the back areas here, these are going to be curated like you'd want to do your own personal backyard. We're going to have little the decorative objects on top of the little coffee tables, the hurricane lanterns. We'll have some one-of-a-kind pieces of art, these stacked stone fountains that we had custom designed and built. So a lot of elements of which we have a property in Atlanta, huge backyard like this, and our gates weren't done right away. And the word on the street for the first 6 weeks was the best place to party in Atlanta. Was our backyard. We had 18 different furniture collections, a reflecting pool, and it was kind of crazy to maintain. And not that this is Atlanta, but once we set it and how beautiful it's going to be and the level of cleanliness and our housekeeping keeps all of our furniture looking, we're concerned that every morning there's a chance, not saying it's going to happen, but there could be a chance we're going to come in and things are going to be gone, broken, vandalized, who knows?
Thanks.
More questions?
No questions.
Okay. I think we're all good on the questions. Thank you. You can
Thank you.
be seated. So what we'll do now is discuss the project, and let's separate it into fireplace first, and then we'll talk about the fence and the gate second.
May I jump in
Please.
since we're a new ZDRB?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
what we are
Public.
seeking tonight,
Public
oh,
comment.
then we'll do
Forgot
that, is you are an advisory body, so we're looking for your individual comments and feedback that we can share with the town council, but we're also looking for the consensus direction of the ZDRB. So we'd like to have a motion and a second to either recommend approval or otherwise, so that we can take that to the town council. But it's both your individual comments that we'd like to hear from and that consensus direction.
Okay, so we'll do them separately, though. That's okay, right?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, the fireplace, my only question, we have the letter, and those are the residents that live directly behind the wall. And so there were no other people that contacted with negative questions or
No.
concerns? Okay, okay. I think the logic of why they're doing it and what I see there makes sense to me. I don't really have any other comments on it. Lynn?
I think that it's fine. I approve of it. I think it makes total sense. I like the symmetry. I think that you've done an excellent job of screening it as well. And I actually am in favor of the higher chimney because I think it creates more of a draft and less fire hazard. So,
Okay, thank you. Stephen? What are your thoughts about the fireplace?
I too, I'm in agreement with Lynn. I think that the fireplace, provided that it's the same proportion, is great.
Okay, Michael?
Yeah, likewise. I mean, again, being new to this, but always starting with what are the existing ordinances and why the exception. And in this case, it's clearly that the fireplace is an architectural element that happens to also function as a fireplace. So to me, the logic of making it symmetrical, making it part of the space at a particular height because it works with the space makes it more of a fixture than a fireplace. So that to me presents a certain logic as to why we would approve of it. And then I actually think, higher in many ways is better because, I'm assuming, I guess it's a wood burning fireplace. I actually never asked, but if it is,
Gas.
thank you. Oh, it's gas? Gas burning? Oh, okay. All right. So there you go. But yes, well, fire in California. It's I think just in general, just having a higher output separate from the ordinance makes sense to me.
Okay, so it sounds like we're all in agreement. Would somebody like to make a motion to approve the fireplace as presented?
I will make a motion to approve the fireplace as presented with the exception that they correct the depth of that one that's behind the masonry building.
Perfect.
Yeah.
To match the other fireplace. Perfect. And somebody like to second that?
I'll second that.
And all in favor?
Aye.
So that's a unanimous thoughts on the fireplace. So now we will move on to the fence and side gate. I did not go back and do public comment. I don't think we have any.
There are no public here, so we're okay.
So I'm safe, but I will open and then therefore close the public comment section since there is no public. I'm sorry. We will move on to the fence with the gate at the front, the street side to the south of the Masonry building. I will start. I'm very disappointed that we missed this when it came through ZDRB. And I know Sandra was not here. She was out on maternity leave. We have never let businesses put gates and fences about their courtyards. There is not a restaurant, a hotel, a retail location that locks it up at night. Everything is open. Everybody's courtyard's open. Everything is open. And I think that lends to what Yountville is all about. It's a walking town. It's promoted as enjoyed as such. It has just a real charming, open reputation. And we have Restoration Hardware furniture that was in our plaza at the community center, and it doesn't have a problem with being vandalized. We have 25 to 30 sculptures out on the public art walk that are right on the sidewalk or seen from the sidewalk, and we never have a problem with those. So I know it's already been granted, but I would beg you to consider how this town is used, and then when people get up in the morning and go out for their walking walks or their coffee walks, they wander through courtyards and they look in windows, and then they come back when those businesses are open. Building high fences and closing yourself off and saying, we are very exclusive, nobody is allowed in here, I don't feel is what Yountville is all about. So that's my personal opinion about fitting into town and being part of Yountville. We are not Atlanta. I don't see any reason to, our current code has a 3-foot fence limit in the front, and I have seen no reason to change that. And I would ask that it not have a gate so that people could go in and use that courtyard. The other one is already all secured off, but that would be my recommendation. Michael, would you like to start? I'll go back and forth with your thoughts on the fence.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it echoes some of my impressions. That's why I was asking, like, what's inside the gate. And when I thought about particularly the north end of town, and you walk up there and there's Stewart on the right, which is completely open, and then you can walk past into the plaza, you can walk through it, there's R&D's completely open. I started thinking to myself, what other examples in the town can I think of was where the decision was to gate something off? And I'm not saying the logic for this property, I'm putting that aside. I'm just talking context. And I couldn't think of one. And so, you know, and there's business hours and there's an experience inside, but yeah, there's a cage in essence along the side of the street where people, there's something that's locked in and there's something that's locked out. And yeah, I realize that, you know, we're bringing up stuff that is several years old, and, you know, I didn't have a chance to position it at the time, but, you know, I definitely sort of echo that sense of even like the French Laundry Garden. I mean, this is one of the best restaurants in the world. Anybody could go in there, start ripping up cucumbers and eating them for themselves. You'd think that it would be like, it's a great place to get a free meal, right? You don't have to spend $500. You can just pick that up there, but they don't seem to think that they should put a wall around it in case people do that. And I would think there's some interesting precedent around that. So, you know, putting the interest of the town first, I kind of am a little bummed out that the decision was, okay, well, let's create a private space that we will make available on our terms, putting valuable things in there that then need to be walled off because we don't trust people and they'll take advantage of it. So I realize we're talking about one element, but you know, I have to say it's going to look a little different and potentially out of place from my standpoint. That's just my observations from a town standpoint.
How do you feel about them asking for the 7-foot fence there and a gate on the south side of Masonry?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, like, I get the symmetry side of it. I'm not sure that you're ever going to be in a position where you'll be able to see 2 gates at once, right? So it's not one that's going to feel like it's completely out of place. I think, you know, 7 foot along the side, you know, seems pretty high. I'm not sure. Yeah, I haven't seen, I mean, I get some of the aesthetics and I get that it's happening elsewhere, but I'm thinking of why the town ordinance was there in the first place, the idea that people are walking around, and I didn't see a particularly strong case for it to be that high, to be honest with you.
Okay, thank you. Stephen?
It feels to me like it's a very urban solution to a country town, to a really kind of treasured historic structure in a country town. And I think the biggest issue that I have is it feels like a very polished way of handling the circulation at that point of the property. And I think I'm really going to miss having kind of this organic, soft way of framing that building. That building is so treasured, and it just feels like it's a really hard way of dealing with it. And it recalls places, you know, in Paris that are closed off after 11 o'clock at night or something to keep pets and people out. But I don't really feel like that's an issue that's been raised in this town before. And it's actually something that I think people really are drawn to Yountville because it is so walkable and so transparent. The material of the gate doesn't feel that transparent to me, especially when there's dark stuff behind it. It just feels like it's going to be really kind of forbidding, and that's not Yountville. So again, I think that I would love to see a softer solution.
How do you feel about granting them a exception to go to 7 feet over the code fence height of 3 feet?
I think if I liked their solution better, I'd feel better about the height. But right now, it just feels like it's a continuation of a wall, and it's a wall of a treasured structure that then becomes this new contemporary interjection.
Okay. Lynn?
I'm going to have to agree. It feels harsh to me, is the only word that I can come up with. I like the idea. I like all of the other surrounding things you've done here, but it just feels enclosed, closed off, and not welcoming. Maybe some more landscape with the material could soften it. I don't know. 7 foot seems extreme. We're in Old Town there, and that's a real diversion from what we do in Old Town. So I would have to say no to the 7 foot height, and I would not say an outright no to the material, but there would have to be some other components that go with it to soften it.
Okay, thank you. So we all kind of seem to be in agreement. Would somebody like to craft a motion that encompasses what we're saying?
You're looking at me.
I know, because Stephen's not looking at me.
Well, let me start it, and then maybe someone
Okay.
can finish it. I mean, the idea that this is an access point is positive. I think that the idea that this is an access point that maintains the character of that area is of critical importance. So the motion from my standpoint is that we don't approve the 7 foot height, and would look for a solution that not only adhered to the 3 foot height limit and or was more characteristic of what that area represents.
Do you want to put anything in about a gate?
In terms of having a gate versus not having a gate, I mean, I like the idea of having a gate, or having access to me seems.
To not having a gate, or to having a gate?
I think the idea of having a gate is positive because currently that's an area that's completely sectioned off. You can't actually access the property through that. So I think the idea of having a way to access it is positive. It's just the height and the presence of the gate itself.
So you're making a motion to say no to the 7 foot high fence, but allowing the gate is your thought?
That is my
Okay.
thought.
Okay, does anybody want to second that?
Can I clarify something or have?
Sure.
So when you say gate, you're actually talking about a physical gate that opens and
Yes, the
closes.
ability to,
Okay, all right. I just
move
wanted to make
through
sure I was
that,
understanding
yeah.
that.
so, was that clear?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Is there a second? Okay, so there's no second. So that motion will fail. So would somebody else like to try a motion? You want to try one?
Sure. I move to reject the 7 foot fence and gate, the height of the 7 foot fence and gate, and to accept a 3 to 6 foot enclosure and gate with some soft landscaping incorporated into that.
So a 3 foot fence with a 3 foot gate? Okay. Does anybody second that? Okay, so that one fails. I will make a motion to reject the 7-foot high fence and gate and allow for the standard code of a 3-foot fence if they would like it, but to not have a gate to close off the opening. Does anybody want to second that one?
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
So just 2. Okay, so we don't have a consensus yet. Stephen, what would you like?
I feel like we're being RH's designers, and I think that we should reject this plan as proposed and ask them to go back to the drawing board.
Okay, I think they've, okay.
And
Is
I would
that-
love for them to consider the comments that we've made here today of including some degree of openness and some degree of landscape and soften it up a little bit.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean, just to clarify, I mean, it's that passage isn't open today. Like you can't go through it. So what's being proposed is access, which I think is a positive thing. It's just what I was commenting on, and I think what we all agreed to was a 7-foot high metal barricade along the side of the street is not, I think, indicative of the streetscape that we want, right? But I think the idea that you can now walk through, I think, is a good thing. So how do we balance the need for some degree of an enclosure, at least the indication that that it's a property that has been, unless we want to change the nature of the property and say like, okay, it's going to get opened up. I'm trying to work with what's there, is to make it feel similar to what it does today in terms of it's a lower height, it's more green, it's more welcoming, but it happens to also be accessible during business hours feels like at least a step forward. I think the idea that it's open during business hours, but is now a 7-foot gate that's going to be closed is a step forward and then potentially 2 steps back. So to me, the 3-foot height was put in place to create the right type of environment. Because if they came along and proposed a fence that was 3 foot, we wouldn't be talking here. So I didn't get the sense that the conversation was about making it open or closed. To me, the conversation was, does this structure warrant changing the guidelines? And I don't think that it does.
yeah, I think we all agree on that.
So to me, it's about saying if it meets the 3-foot height, and can we also revisit it so that it gives off the right impression as you're walking along the street. I think that would be to me the right compromise.
So do you have enough to give the town council, or you still want us to find a specific motion?
I'd like a motion, but it seems as if we don't have full consensus.
Some
I
of us
can
want it to
indicate-
remain open, and some of us are, or maybe I'm the only one that wants it
I
to
mean,
remain open.
I can try another motion if you, or do you only get one motion per round?
Well, I think Member Miller has a motion on the table. So we either need a second or to allow
Oh,
this
to
one
go
to
back
fail.
to
And
design.
then Member Zaworski, you could make a motion.
Can you repeat your motion?
Yes, I think I can. My motion is to punt this back to the designers that have presented this and ask them to take it back to the drawing board and come back to us with a proposal that is a little bit more befitting of the town of Yountville and offers a softer transition between Washington Street and this garden experience that they're creating.
Okay, I will second that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
2,
Aye.
3, 4. There we go. Good job. Okay,
Okay.
you good with that? I know it's not the answer anybody wanted, but
I'll just share clarification. The process goes that they start here and goes to the town council. So a motion of that nature can be considered by an applicant, but it doesn't mean it will come back before you. They may elect to go to town council. They may make some minor changes based on what they heard from you, but doesn't necessarily mean it will come back here.
Okay.
Okay.
So then, it doesn't specifically say no to the 7-foot fence? And we all agreed we wanted to say no to the 7-foot fence.
Well, that would be the recommendation of staff to
I
the
understood that it was
council.
to reject the 7-foot fence
Yes,
and to ask
okay.
the applicants to go back to the drawing board. So-
Perfect, okay, yeah, as long as it reads like that.
Okay.
Okay, I'm good with that. Okay, we are finished with that one, thank you. We will move on to staff and board reports. Oh, surprise. Okay. Election
Okay.
of
Thank
chair
you.
and vice chair.
So yes, in September of each year, we elect a chair and a vice chair. And the idea
Oh, yeah, it's right there.
is that we like to see different members participate in these roles. Granted, there are 3 new members here, so
Yes.
that may affect the
not
decision
here.
tonight. And it doesn't mean that someone who's been a chair or vice chair shouldn't continue if that's where the comfort level is. So, so that's what we have before you tonight. Mikel did touch base with me this afternoon and said he had something that had come up and he can't make it, that he does support Chair Cook in her position, and that he is interested in maintaining his position if there are no other changes. So letting you know that since he is not here, and it's up to you to discuss and to make the decision.
It's always good to have the positions change around. I know that's really hard.
How long have you
right
been
when we're
chair?
starting. 2 years?
2 years?
2 years? Yeah. Can we put it off for a few months and then see if anybody is interested in taking the position? Would anybody consider?
I think that it would be nice to have some continuity since we're all new.
Okay.
And I certainly think that we could revisit it in, a period of time, but that it feels like I would be comfortable with you maintaining the chair and Mikel maintaining vice.
Okay, I'm fine with that.
I agree.
Okay,
I agree as well.
we'll get a
Okay.
few meetings under our belts and
Okay.
reapproach this some months from now. Okay. As part of staff and board reports, I did also want to share an update on the Envision Yountville General
Oh,
Plan. And that process has fallen into 3 different segments, the first of which was the speaker series and getting the information out there. The second scope of that work was the work of the town advisory group and the public workshops and the feedback from the different boards and commissions in the council. And we now have a draft. The TAG saw a draft in August, and they made feedback for some minor changes they'd like to see, and so we're in the process of making those revisions, and the graphic designer is putting the graphs and the illustrations and everything into it so that we have a public draft. We're expecting that to be available September 28th or thereabout, in preparation for the open house that is scheduled for Saturday, October 13th from about 10 to 2. Although we're holding it open on our calendar from 10 to 4, I think we'll pull that back a little at some point. Anyway, so we're excited to move into this next phase. It means that the TAG's work is done, and they put in a lot of work over the course of a year and 11 or 12 meetings. And now it moves on to the town council and a very public process with the open house and the different meetings and hearings. So we really want the public to come out over the next 6 months. Following the open house, we'll be taking it to the ZDRB in November, to the Arts Commission in November, to the PRAC in November, and the council in December. And then we'll see more revisions, and hopefully it'll be a document that's adopted sometime in early 2019. So that's where we're at, and we're excited. We're in the last phase.
Congratulations. So TAG got the chance to see the draft, and they were good at all. Excellent.
And the open house is Saturday, October 13th from 10 to 2 or
Yeah.
10 to 4?
10 to 2 is what we're targeting. Yeah.
And that'll be at the,
The community center.
okay.
And we'll start with a presentation for the public, but it will be an open house, so it's structured for drop-in traffic, and we'll have different booths set up throughout the room to discuss different issues, and we'll be taking feedback on all of those. And that's what's next.
Okay,
Great. It's exciting.
congratulations. Seems like it was fast, I hate to say, but I know it wasn't.
It, oh
I
no,
know
it
wasn't,
has
but
been fast.
it's
We're about
fast.
two years into it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I mean, some towns never get through it, so good job.
Yeah.
Okay, anybody have any more questions for them?
No, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, the tag was very complimentary about the language. I think there's what was interesting about it is that there's obviously the very carefully worded elements of the language, but there's a broader narrative. And so I think it'll be interesting for this group to look at the language that's in there against that broader narrative, because it's, if there's anything as part of this, is that it's the very inexact science, and it really has to capture the trajectory and the intent as much as it does try to put current and future challenges into words. So looking forward to seeing what the public says about that.
Yes. Great. Okay, and that's it?
That's it.
All right, thank you. Then I will move to adjourn the meeting. Thank you very much, everybody. Good job.